Bonjour à toutes et à tous et bienvenue dans ce nouvel épisode du Digital Download. Oops. Good afternoon, good morning, and good day, wherever you may be joining us from. Welcome to another edition of the Digital Download, the longest running weekly business talk show on LinkedIn Live. Now globally syndicated on TuneIn Radio through IBGR, the world's #1 business talk, news, and strategy radio network. Today we are challenging the endless debate about the best way to contact a prospect. Sales and marketing teams invest countless hours and resources searching for the perfect outreach act, but their messages are still being ignored. For this special panelist discussion, I'm joined by my co-hosts, Tracy Borson, Adam Gray, and Tim Hughes, to discuss a fundamental truth: the method is irrelevant if the trust isn't there. But before we begin, let's go around the set and introduce everyone. While we're doing this, why don't you in the audience reach out to a friend, ping them, and have them join us? We strive to make the digital download an interactive experience, and audience participation is highly encouraged. Tracy, you want to kick us off, please?
I would love to. So first of all, you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we do.
Because my screen is doing like something crazy, but that's fine. I'm Tracy Borson, founder of TLB Coaching and Events, a proud partner of DLA Ignite, and I am coming to you from Canada very early here in the morning. But enjoying my morning so far, and I have no doubt that this is going to be another amazing conversation. At least I have all of the things to say about it.
I'm sure you have. Yeah, I'm sure you have. Tim.
Yes, thank you. Welcome. And my name is Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. And I'm famous for writing the book, Social Selling: Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers.
Excellent. Thank you, Tim. Adam.
Hello, everybody. I'm Adam Gray. I'm Tim's business partner and co-founder at DLA Ignite. And I love having guests on, but I equally love it for different reasons when we don't have guests on, and it gives us the opportunity to rant about things. And I think that so many of these topics are definitely worth a good rant, because they're incredibly frustrating for us and indeed for everybody in business that's in a role which requires us to reach out to people.
Just to confirm, if you're new, we will also rant on episodes with a guest. We just rant more on episodes without a guest.
Absolutely, and we have some absolutely cracking guests lined up for our next few episodes. So, but anyway, it's an opportunity today to share a few thoughts, and I'm going to start, as always, with a foundational question for you. Okay, so here we go. Why is the debate about outreach methods, whether we're talking emails, social, or calls, are a complete distraction? Who wants to take that?
Pick me.
Tracy, let's go for it.
Oh, okay. So can we just keep it simple and say there's no one right thing? If there was one magic outreach method that worked for all people in all scenarios, there would only be one outreach method, and everyone would be using it successfully. And everybody's life, I guess, theoretically would be very easy, because we wouldn't have to explore, we wouldn't have to look at our brand personalities, we wouldn't have to look at our competition, we wouldn't have to look at anything. There would just be one magic method that works for everyone. And I think, first of all, when we say it that way, I think most people would be like, yeah, that's not a thing. There's no one magic outreach method. Except when we are approaching the conversation like this, it's like we're looking for the one magic outreach method. This is now what our A/B testing is all about, and all of those different things. So we might believe one thing logically, our behavior does something else, and then we get caught up in this weird funnel failure because we're actually chasing the wrong thing. We're chasing the perfect thing.
The key thing is that we're chasing the wrong thing. So we've got a racing car, and we're trying different setups and tires on the racing car, but Tim's forgotten to put an engine in it. So clearly, actually, it's not having much effect on the lap times of the vehicle. And I think that, Bertrand's question about, whether email or social or phone is the best, all of these things can work, but normally don't. And the reason they don't is that, and we often use cold as a word attached to telephone, cold calling. The issue is not calling, the issue is cold. And so it's like when you look into your inbox and you see, hi, just circling back round to ask you whether or not you'd had a chance to read my hi, just bouncing this back to, these set scripts. Half a dozen different companies will each have half a dozen different salespeople in half a dozen different companies sending you exactly the same message for a disparate range of products, because these are set scripts that are deemed to be best practice or whatever. And the reality is, and we joke about this, but the reality is that why would I even give you the time of reading your email if I've no idea who the hell you are? And
I think this plays into something that's really important in terms of like the order of operations.
Yeah.
Because I think when it comes to marketing, there's a lot of out in the world about different things that are doable. And yes, these are all things that are doable. But if you are doing them in a weird order of operations, it doesn't mean they're just going to work because they're a thing to do. You have to do them in the right order, which plays into what you were saying there, Adam, about it being cold or people not having a reason. You have not given me a reason to open your email, so why would I?
Yeah, and I think that you talk about brand, but I don't care about your brand. And the reason I don't care about your brand is I've no idea who you are. And I think it was Tim who originally put me onto this, a W*NKER Onomics profile on Instagram, where it's people that work in a pretend agency talking about brand. And they said, the one that I saw most recently said, the customer is central to everything we do. And they said, basically, you need to write this into your mission statement because this is what everybody wants to hear. And it's what everyone wants to hear because this is what Barclays say, and what HSBC say, and what British American Tobacco say, and what Ford say, and what every company says this. And the problem, is that it doesn't differentiate, because nobody ever says we're a bit expensive, we don't always deliver on time, it's not 100% reliable. Everyone says we're customer focused and we're absolutely fantastic. So all these people are saying the same thing about their products. All of these products, if you believed what they say, would sort your problem out, whatever your problem happens to be. And because of the fact that everybody's using these superlatives about their product or their service, there's no differentiation. Every company claims to be the best. Every company claims to be the best value. Every company claims to be the most reliable. So against that backdrop, I look out into the marketplace and there's a million products. They all seem to be the same. Well, why wouldn't I just pick the cheapest or the one closest or whatever other subjective measure? Well, I'm going to pick from your company, Tracy, because I really like the fact you've got a pink logo. Because actually, in the absence of anything else, why not? I like pink logos. Why would I not pick your pink company for that reason? And I think that the part of the challenge is that until we have built some sort of relationship with the person that we want to have a conversation with, there's A, no reason for them to listen to what we say, and B, no reason to believe what we say, even if they do happen to listen to it. So starting from that standpoint, like you said, it's the order of operations. You've got to decide you've got to create someone who's listening to your conversation first, because without that, there was no point in trying to have a conversation.
I'd like,
and I think too, it's sorry. Go ahead.
No. First of all, we had our first punchline. The problem is not call, email, or social. The problem is cold. And I'd like to understand how you can actually start building, to your point, Adam, building a relationship with someone you don't know.
Well, I think the key thing there is the issue there is don't know. So in the old days, you would go to an event or a lunch or a breakfast or a chamber of commerce or a round table type thing, and you would meet a whole bunch of people, and you'd say, "Hi, Bertrand, I'm Adam. Tell me a little bit about what you do. That's interesting. I'll tell you a little bit about what I do." And you'd go, "Oh, that's interesting. Well, if I ever need that or know someone that needs that, I'll be sure to recommend you." And or we would have that initial meeting, and you would think, "I don't like this person. You know, either I don't like their accent, I don't like their haircut. Clearly not an issue for me. I don't like the way they articulate things."
It's still a haircut, you know, Adam.
It's overcut, maybe. They, you know, that I don't trust them. Whatever those things are. So I'm not going to think about them in that way. I'm not going to recommend them to it. But you would hope that people would like you, and they would start to open doors for you. But obviously, as we've said many times before, the problem with face-to-face events is that they're really, really expensive. They're expensive to arrange. They're expensive to go to. They're expensive with your time. And, you know, one of the biggest problems that you have is that if you go to like a lunch, you sit there for 2 hours and you've got a person either side of you that you talk to and get to know, and there's 200 other people at the lunch, and you never get to really have any relationship with those, never get to have a conversation with those people. So nowadays, the beauty of the digital, particularly specifically the social space, is that you can go out and find, I think you would use the term, Tracy, find your peeps. You know, you can go and find those people that are part of your tribe, people that say, you know, I love the fact that you're into baking bread or travel or you know, whatever those things, Lego, you know, those things that you're into where you go, oh, even either that's a passion that I share, or that's not a passion that I share, but I nonetheless find it quite interesting. And that's the basis, isn't it?
So if cold outreach in any case, whether it's on the phone or on the email or on social media, is bad, why is the whole of every single person in the world doing it?
Well, I think.
Okay. So first of all, I think I think it is important to say that everything starts cold.
Yeah,
right?
it has to.
Everything does, right? So even I go to a family reunion and there's a family member there that this happens to me all the time. I don't know if this happens to other people where you're like, who is this person? I've been in this family for a while. That all of that, even seeing someone's profile for the first time, getting put in a group in a lab, like all of these things they start out as cold. So again, I think it's about how do we move from like cold into something, right? How do we start
something warm,
like fire? Yeah.
But I think the really important thing about that is that when you meet somebody face to face, when you meet somebody at a family event, the things that you are sharing and the things you were talking about are things that are non-threatening. You know, if you share a picture of your son Nicholas building something in Lego, then anybody that's ever played with Lego has some kind of understanding of that, and they're quite happy, unless you were a North American head of sales for Lego. There's no implicit sales pitch in you saying, check this out, he's built a Saturn V rocket. You know, so I look at it and I go, oh, that's amazing. How many pieces was it? And how long did it take? And is he going to build other stuff to go with it? And we're having a conversation which builds friendship and relationship and rapport and understanding without you saying, yes, this is the list of the pieces that if you click this special link here, you're going to get 20% discount and all of that stuff that is so inherent in the world of sales. And, you know, the thing that I find most kind of upsetting about it is that every company claims to want a relationship-based sale and they don't. They want a sale. And if you haven't got the relationship there, it's always going to be, I don't know, it seems very intrusive, doesn't it, to pounce on somebody and say, I've identified you as a likely prospect. Let me explain what I do. because I don't want to hear what you do.
But in the world out there, the only way that the world goes round is by selling stuff, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So we all start in a position where what we need to do is go out and we have to go out and introduce ourselves to people.
Well, I think you make an important distinction there, Tim. We can go out and we can introduce ourselves to people, or we can go out and we can sell stuff to people.
Yeah.
And I think when we come at it from that second perspective is when we get into trouble, because then we're trying to turn everybody into a sale instead of going out and introducing ourselves to people, learning enough to see if it's worth getting into a conversation about something that's business related. I think when you look at like cold marketing, I think almost everyone would put that into that category, right? I'm sending you a social media connection or message or email that just says like, hey, did you see what I'm selling? Hey, did you see what I'm selling? Hey, did you see what I'm selling? And you're like, whoa, I don't even know if you like Lego yet. It's too soon.
Yeah.
So how have we got ourselves into this situation then, Tracy? Because I had somebody that I hadn't spoken to for a long time connect to, send me a message on LinkedIn, and we had a call, and I said, what are you up to? And it just flipped into a sales page.
I mean, I think a lot of it comes from personal fear, to be honest with you, if you want to get deep in philosophizing about things.
Yes.
Is that when I am selling something, whether I'm a salesperson or a marketer who's representing a business, or I am a solopreneur trying to sell my own things, if I think I don't have access to sales, then I'm going to approach every connection opportunity as a potential sale, because I'm afraid that if it's not a sale, then I'm not going to make money today. And I think this is where, like, if you extrapolate how companies like Apple and things do sales, right? Like, Apple isn't in my face on the daily being like, you need to have an Apple and it's better than a Samsung because blah, 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 blah. And you should call me today. No, they're like, we're Apple. Here's what we do here. Here's what we have. If you like it, like, let's talk about it. And I think this is interesting too for me from a marketing point of view, because what I always tell people is marketing is about showing people what you have. And you can do that with a storefront, or you can do it with a social media profile. At the end of the day, this is about, if people don't know what you're selling, they can't buy it. So yes, we have to be able to do that. But at the same time, when you think about, I always think about it like farmer's market, right? Farmer's market, everyone has their like booths set up, and everybody's walking along and they're attracted to specific booths. I particularly like artisan things and donuts. So if you are creating something unique from an art point of view, or you have any kind of donut, then I will come and look at your booth. If you have vegetables, maybe if I need groceries, I'll look at it. But like, again, like, I think these are things, we've all had that experience, right? We all know we're attracted to things, we're not attracted to things. The storefront, we don't sell anything unless people can walk by and see that we're like, hey, here's what it is that we're doing here. But that's different than me being out being like, come on, person, come and buy my honey because you need honey, and here's all the health benefits of honey. Like, this is not how you sell stuff at a farmer's market. It's also not how you sell stuff on the internet with email or on social media or any of those other things. And so it's about showing enough. Yes, you have to show it, because you never know who could need your help as well. My most recent client was a friend of mine from university. Right? Like, I don't decide that. That person was like, oh, now I happen to need what you're doing. So can I please get that? And I'm like, yes, you can. Because you know what I'm doing. But I didn't spend 20 years since university trying to convince you that you need to buy authentic marketing. It's a different thing. And so I think it's important for people to look at, like, how am I approaching this? Like, every single person I connect with has to buy something. And then even like extrapolate back to your revenue model, right? Like, oh, I'm a coach that sells high ticket coaching. I actually need like 3 clients at a time. I don't need all 100 people who saw my LinkedIn post to be a client tomorrow. And when we start to look at some of those things, it allows us, I mean, it takes a practice to get out of the fear. But then it allows us to be like, okay, well, if I actually really am just looking to meaningfully connect with like maybe 10 people, so then I can maybe have 5 conversations, so I can maybe get 1 client. Now, all of a sudden, I have put less pressure on myself to like turn every single contact and interaction into something that's going to be a transaction.
Excellent. So we have a few.
Sorry, it wasn't a big story there.
We have a few comments from the audience. And by the way, we're going to talk about Apple again, because I think what you're talking about is Apple B2C. I'm not sure that they behave the same in the B2B world, but we'll talk about that. So first of all, good morning, Katrin. Thanks for joining us today. We have a comment on building the relationship first from Stephen, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about that. And thanks, good afternoon, Ben, by the way, and thanks for joining. And Ben says, believe I said this before, but if there is one magic method, it resolves around, if you want to be interesting, be interested. Anyone wants to make a comment about this?
Yeah, that's absolutely nailed it, because I remember somebody saying, if you think back to your last first date, and if the date went well, it's because the person that you went out with said, that's interesting, tell me more about that. That's interesting, tell me more about that. Oh, I'd like to hear more about that. Oh, that's and actually everybody wants to feel that they're being heard. And I think that part of this in this interchange, particularly in the digital space, is I have to earn the right to expect you to listen to me. And the best way I can earn that right is by demonstrating I'm listening to you. You know, the old adage, 2 ears, 1 mouth, use them in those proportions. And unfortunately, most people have 6 mouths and 1 ear that's partially deaf, because they're not listening. You know, they're too busy shouting, thinking that what they need is a greater share of voice. What they need is to have more impacts of their message. And they don't need any of that. What they need is to have people that are genuinely listening to them. And, you know, the best way you can convince somebody that you are good at something is to show them that you're good at something. So your great ideas, you package them up and you give them out to people so that they can go, that's a really good idea. Oh, I've tried that. That works really well. Because if you share something with me and I try it and it works, and you share something else and I try it and it works, and you share something else and I try it and it works, and you share something else and I try it and it works, it's like, well, she's pretty good because every time she tells me to do something, I do it and it works. Okay, so the only conclusion I can draw from that interaction is that your ideas are good ideas. Whereas if you tell me your ideas are good, no one's going to sell ideas by saying, buy my ideas because they don't work. So everyone says their ideas are good. And that's the reality, isn't it? You know, social is a fantastic, well, the digital as a whole, you know, that the internet is a fantastic platform for disseminating ideas, not disseminating messages, because people don't listen, people don't care. Disseminate ideas, share your best thinking with people because it shows them how good you are.
All right.
Bertrand.
So where is the
conversation on?
No, is there any, because, you know, right, so how do you introduce yourself is one of the questions. You said, you know, you've got to introduce, someone says you've got to introduce yourself. How do you introduce yourself in an email? How do you do that?
So, I mean, I think it is important in this scenario to like take a step back and say, how do I think it's best for me to introduce myself? Mm-hmm. So for me, unless I have been introduced to somebody through email, I would not introduce myself through email. I do not feel like I learn about people through email. So I personally then would not introduce myself via email. That's not to say that there aren't people out there who feel like they can learn about people through email. So maybe they would like to introduce themselves through email. But I think that that's an important separator, is that how do you feel like it's best to introduce yourself? and then what channels and methods do you choose that match?
But isn't that whatever the method? It's the similar as, you know, we could walk up to somebody in the street, tap them on the shoulder, and basically say, "This is my product." But we would never do that because we know that personally we'd probably get punched, or certainly there'd be two words and one of them would be off.
Well, and like I think this is a good pressure test, right? Like,
so why?
If you do that to someone in a parking lot,
Okay, but if we're going to do that, if that happens in the street, why, if we did it over the telephone or over email or spam people over social media, do we not expect the same thing? Why do they suddenly? If I get an email from somebody where it says, "Here's my list of products and services," why do they expect me to suddenly say, "Oh yeah, can I have 2, please, in blue"?
Yeah, well, I think that the face-to-face interaction is a really good metaphor for this. So which is more attractive? I walk up to you and I say, "Hi, I'm Adam Gray. I'm an accountant and I help small and medium-sized businesses produce their accounts on time. Who are you and what do you do?" If I walk up,
if you're on the radio, Tim just fell asleep.
No, so that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is to walk up to them and say, "Hi, I'm Adam Gray. Who are you and what is it that you do for a living?" Now, one of those will make the person back away and fall asleep in Tim's case. And one of them may make the person say, "Hi, I'm Tim Hughes. I do this." I go, "Oh, that's really..." So one of them is encouraging people to interact with you. Now, I think that the problem with email is that the first outreach via email is never going to be a, "Hi, Tracy, why don't you tell me what you do?" Because actually that's a vacuous and pointless message to send somebody. And the telephone is too, but on social actually it isn't. So we can very closely mirror the behavior that we might have in a face-to-face environment. And I think that's really crucial.
Yes.
And I think the other thing with email is that there's a relentless desire to scale things. So, you know, I walk into a crowded bar and I whistle at the top of my lungs and I go, "Hi, everybody, who wants a date?" And not surprisingly, I don't get many takers. However, if you see somebody across a bar and you walk up to them and you engage them in a conversation and you're interested in them, and then you say, "I'd like to take you out for dinner," that's an entirely different outcome that you're likely to get from that.
So Adam, if you walk into a bar and say, "Hey, everybody, who wants a date, you bunch of idiots," isn't that hyper-personalized?
That is hyper-personalized. And in fact, I can be better than that. I can say, "Okay, which of you blondes wants a date? Which of you brunettes wants a date? Which of you redheads wants a date?" And actually, the fact is that we laugh about it because that's like hideously unattractive, and we can't imagine that would ever be a successful way to get a date. And then
but it is hyper-personalized marketing.
Yeah, and yet we go on to, so anybody who's under 50 but over 40 and blonde, it's like, yeah, it's like so unattractive way to behave. And yet we go into the digital marketing world and we go, this is what the world needs. And it isn't. It never has been, and it never is.
Adam, don't forget to ask them about their household income. I would only like to work with people who have a household income of this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I only want to date people with a household income of.
So if we,
I'll only date these. Okay.
Get
so
your keys out.
as you said, Adam and all of you, you know, this doesn't work. So how if you were looking at a change, so changing your behavior, because you know, looking at it from the way you look at it, it's obvious that it needs to change. So, you know, how would you proceed? What would be the practical steps to
I think
move away from the current practice?
I think that we know that in the old days, we used to behave a particular way. We would go to events, we would meet people, we would be introduced to people, we would listen to people, and then we would develop a conversation on that. And I think that the irony of this is that the internet, and specifically social, gives us such a massive opportunity to do this at scale. And yet the very thing that we can scale, we choose not to. What we choose to scale is saying, well, I've got a global audience of 6 billion people. And what I'm looking for is this hyper-targeted persona, because my offer to this persona will be really interesting. Because we believe that if the last person that bought our product or service was a 37-year-old blonde with a household income of more than $100,000 a year, who lived in whatever city. Okay, so I'm looking for people who mirror that person because that person was happy. But actually what we're forgetting is that people buy people. You know, why am I going to believe what you say? Because I like you. Why am I going to listen to what you say? Because I like you and I trust you. You know, these are the fundamental tenets of any complex business interaction with people. And I think that what we're doing is we're looking to scale the wrong things in the name of efficiency. We're looking to say, well, I've got a global audience of 100 million people now. That's fantastic, because I'm only looking for 5% of them to be buyers. Well, actually, we're putting the shoe on the wrong foot. We should be looking at the situation and saying, how can I forge a relationship with people who are likely to buy my product? And how do I know that I'm going to be able to give my product a fair hearing in front of those people? Sending them a brochure isn't going to work, because if you give someone a brochure, they believe they have all of the information they need to make a decision, because they've collected 20 brochures from 20 companies, and they end up buying the brochure from the company with the pink logo or whatever. So actually, I need to try to control the sale. And the only way I can do that is by talking to you. And the only way I can talk to you is by building some sort of rapport. And the only way I can build some sort of rapport is by talking to you as a person, not as a persona. And I think that when companies crack this, you know, Tim and I had dinner the other day, as did you, Tracy, interestingly. We had dinner.
It's great to see you, Tracy, by the way.
Yeah, it was. It was lovely.
It was really
It's great to see you all too.
Yeah.
We had dinner with somebody who shall remain nameless, but he has got 5 times as much pipeline as anybody else in his team. And in a large enterprise, he has more first meetings with ICP customers than anybody else in all of EMEA. And he's done this by exactly doing what we're talking about here, by treating digital as if it were a coffee shop where he can go and chat to people and see where those conversations go. And what he knows is that if this person that's an ideal target for him is not in market today, it actually doesn't matter, because he'll be in market next week. And all he needs to do is to keep that person engaged and interested in him until such point as that person is ready to buy. So not only has he cured his pipeline problems today, he's cured his pipeline problems way, way into the future.
Well, and I think it's interesting, because when you look at use cases like that, there is I call it way of being that goes with that person, right? That person has a deep belief in the value of community and connection and all those different things. Their sales process mirrors that. When we talk about the trap that people fall into with the scaling, is that it is actually, and society has made it, technology has made it much easier to scale something that doesn't work than to change your own behavior. Right? So now all of a sudden it seems simple to just I'm doing this right now. It's not getting enough results. If I do it more, I will get the results that I want. And there's also marketing technology stacks and everything that are promoting this as the solution. So that is contributing to the problem. It is not helping the problem. And so people invest in CRM systems and automations and all of these things to scale the volume, because they think that the problem is that I'm not reaching enough people. They don't think that the problem is that my behavior is broken. And therefore it's difficult for any human to go through behavior change. It is. It's more difficult than just buying a tech stack that will do things for you faster. But when we actually, one of the things I love to look at is for a lot of people who are going out and doing these automated volume activities, those activities don't actually match their natural way of being. And if you're a person like our joint friend who is very into community and wants to build those relationships, and you have this stack over here that is just automating stuff to the point where you don't touch anybody, like that actually doesn't align with you at all either. So while the market might be selling you that, it's also important to step back and be like, is that what I would do? Or would I love the micro influencer strategy, right? So like, I'm going to have a relationship with one person, and I'm going to have that one person be like, you got to meet Tracy. And now in my network, I have like a handful of these people, and I can fill my entire calendar without even trying, because those people are like, oh my God, I'm talking to that person. They need to talk to Tracy. And I remember having this conversation with some friends once, and there was like 3 of them at an event that I was not at. And they were all talking to each other and being like, do you know Tracy? And I'm like, that's the micro influencer model, right? I build enough of a relationship with one person so they want to talk to me about other people. They want to share my case study. They want to share my LinkedIn show. They want to do that because I put in the effort of building that relationship.
But that's a very human thing. And I think that
yes.
that is the kind of part of the issue, isn't it? What people are looking for is they're looking for some electronic device that they can just turn it up. So I get more leads coming in and more leads coming in. So some years ago, through one of our partner resellers, we ended up working for a company that was kind of right in the middle of this MarTech cloud, and they had a tool that would enable you to hyper identify people that matched your ideal criteria. And the narrative was, this is what we do. We're the only people that do it in this space. And what this gives you is a massive uplift in the yield from the, in terms of the leads you can generate from the marketing activities that you're doing, which everyone goes, oh yeah, that's what I need. So they were talking to us because they didn't have any pipeline, because they had no leads. And it's like, okay, I mean, talk about eating your own dog food.
They switched off their machine because it didn't work.
Yeah.
They actually didn't use it in themselves.
But they had a really good story, didn't they? They had a really good story about how this...
The head of marketing went home and cried every night.
Yeah.
But I think this is also the thing, right? Like, when we realize that we're solving the quote unquote problem that's not actually the problem, right? Like, even the whole concept of hyper targeting, we've touched on it a couple of times, so I want to say something here, is that almost always it is focused on demographic information. It is focused on your gender. It is focused on your age. It's focused on your household income. It is focused on your location. All of these things are demographic pieces of information. Most people buy because of something that's going on in their head that they have not revealed to the world anywhere in a data collection methodology, which means I can't actually target. I always use so I sell authentic marketing advisory. Okay? Most people are like, what is that? And I'm like, yeah, let me tell you. But the point is, there's nobody on Google searching for authentic marketing advisory. And I don't choose it because people are searching for it. I choose it because this is what I do. And to me, that is doing what you would do in marketing. And there's whole depths of layers of that. But like, I can't convince somebody to want authenticity. I can't. But there are also people walking around in the world who are like, oh, I am not being very authentic. How could I be more authentic? And I'm like, oh, hey, that's what I do over here. I sell the authenticity shoes. Right? You want to try on authenticity shoes? This is the place where we do that. But it's not, I can't learn that information on your profile. Like, maybe I get lucky every once in a while and someone hashtags authenticity, right? But like, at the end of the day, I don't know what that means to you. I came up with my own definition for what it means. So it can be an igniter of a conversation, but it is not the thing that decides whether or not you are actually
no. But the issue is, the issue is that people that know they need to be authentic are people that have a fundamental belief that they're a decent person. Because if you're evil, or you think you're evil, you're not gonna think authenticity is your route to success. Now, one of the things that I find really interesting is that when we're kids, we all think, oh, I'm not a very nice person, and the people that are friends with me are only friends with me because they don't really know how not a nice person I am. And as we get older, we become much more confident. In most instances, we become much more confident about who we are. We go, well, this is who I am. You either like it or you don't, and that's your choice. I can't influence that. But to take that, and then one of the challenges that we've seen over the years has been to take that kind of self-belief in a one-to-one environment. Okay, you don't like me, you do like me. That's great. But to take that and scale that into a global audience, people are really scared about that because they think the people that like them are just going to be an anomaly. So the idea of being authentic is really...
We got loads of time, Bennett, Bertrand.
It is like really difficult for people to grasp and believe, and that's why people don't look for that as a solution, because they don't think that's where the gold lies. There's gold in them, their hills, which there are. People that are authentic are the people that are more successful and build huge audiences and people that love them. But people that are not being authentic don't think that that's what success is. They think, well, I need another set of letters after my name or another whatever.
Can we pick up Bennett?
Yeah. But and before we pick Ben's question, I just wanted to come back to what Tracy said about that was a cracking punchline, by the way, about technology makes it easier to scale something that doesn't work, but doesn't have change behaviors, right? So there is a change in behavior that might be requested. And Ben is asking that question. Memes spread like mind viruses, fast and sticky. Can that viral mechanism be paired with trust building, or do they fundamentally contradict each other?
So the thing about memes is that there's nothing wrong with memes, and in fact, Tom Miner basically picks this up on in his recent book on being social first, and he talks about organizations, and there are individuals that have built a platform based on memes. So, for example, it will be a photo of this is my face when my sales manager asks. It's the beginning of the quarter, and the sales manager asks me for my forecast. And I know an individual that's built 1 million followers based on that. But the difficulty is with any organization or in any individual is how do you translate that into something serious, like a piece of business?
Yeah, it's not credibility, is it?
Yeah. So you can there are lots of examples of people that have built followings based on memes and jokey videos. But how do you then actually say, right, we're now going to sell a piece of training or a jumper or whatever? And that's the difficulty. And the road is littered with people that have decided to try and do something funny and then turn around and say, I now want you to buy something that's serious.
Well, and I think
so the question is it exclusive? I think that's really the question. Back to changing mindsets. Is there a way to use this type of stuff to change mindsets and still build a trusted relationship?
What we've learned is that people jump to conclusions. They see a little bit and they assume a lot. And it takes an awfully long time to change the conclusions that people have jumped to about you. So, we think about, I don't know, Donald Trump and, you're fired from The Apprentice or whatever, which he hasn't done for however many years since he's done the show. And that's still something that he's tarred with. And so often, people get this thing entrenched in their mind. So if you are the guy that does memes, that's great. And, you get loads of interaction on those memes, but that's probably means that you're not the guy to come and install a £50 million ERP system in my business. Now, there will be occasions when that's the door opener and people are able to convert that into business. But fundamentally, when I look at you, do I see somebody who's credible and expert, or do I see someone that's a good laugh? And a good laugh is nice for a few drinks in a bar. A good laugh is not nice for me to risk my entire career on in commissioning a massive project.
I think too, for me, like, it comes down to the fact that memes are consumed as entertainment.
Yeah.
And they're not consumed as trust building. And so that's just, it's two different things. And so if you've built your brand identity on entertainment, then people are going to consume your brand as entertainment. They're not going to consume it as
it's the same as going to the cinema. What I do is I go to the cinema, I consume the content, and I walk away. That doesn't mean I'm going to buy anything, and it's certainly not community.
Right.
Because what community is the fact that people, quite often we have on this program, people actually talking to each other in the chat. That's what community is. And we know that we've had people, and please do this if you're in the chat and you're talking, please connect to the people that are also leaving comments, because the community is the way that the community takes place outside of this show.
Right.
We said earlier, I think you said, Adam, that you might be developing a relationship with someone who's not in market right now, but maybe next week or next month. But then the question, I guess, is how do you make sure you don't lose that connection, so that whenever they are on market, they are in market, they still think about you?
Well, I think that this is true of most people out there. Let's assume you've got 1,000 connections, and you know who 100 of them are, and 900 of them, you've no idea who these people are, or why you connected, or when you connected. But the people that you do notice are the people that are engaging toward you, and then you are engaging towards them. And part of that is that if they comment on your stuff, you start to see their stuff. That's the algorithm working. And part of that is because if they comment on your stuff, you see their face, and then you notice their stuff, which is your mind working. But either way, the closer you move to these people, and the more you invest in keeping these people, keeping you in their line of sight and them in yours, means that you're likely to be preeminent at the point that they are ready to buy. Now, whether they reach out to you and say, I'm ready to spend $1 million now, probably not. But they might reach out to you and say, I'm starting to do a little bit of research in this area. Can you help me? Or can you give me some advice? Or can we have a conversation, please? An informal chat about this. But all of that comes from you positioning yourself as an expert and not an entertainer, further to your comment, Benedict. But also that you are seen as somebody that is approachable and friendly. Because if you have set yourself up as being, a really tough closer, people are unlikely to walk up to you because they fear what will happen. Whereas if you're seen as a really friendly person that's always smiling and happy to help people, they're much more likely to walk up to you. And I guess further to your initial comment, Tracy, this is about setting your stall out as you want to be perceived. If you want to look like you're fun and a bit of a joker, then set it out that way. If you want to look like you're an expert, but an expert that people can engage with and have a conversation with, set it out that way. And so often, I think, we misinterpret being dull for being professional. And there's a bit of crossover in this Venn diagram. You're allowed to smile and laugh and have fun, but also you've got to have something heavyweight to back it up with that demonstrates you do know about your specialist subject. You do know what you're talking about.
I think one additional thing I would add there too is that I think this is where marketing can be most successful at living, is giving people a place that they can stay in your orbit. So whether that is a newsletter, a live show, a podcast, or like something that can allow people to maintain that experience of you. So just like Adam said, with your stall, right? Like, do you feel like you can maintain your stall experience on email? Great, use email. Personally, I don't, because I don't feel like I like it. I don't like it. And so that's that's where, when we're talking about also outreach, which can kind of like bridge between sales and marketing, like marketing are the things that you will give to your audience for free. People don't have to pay to consume them. And so what can you give to the world for free? You could give them a flyer, you could give them a brochure, or you could give them something that actually creates a brand experience of yours, which is going to keep them in the orbit much more effectively than if I can't, as a one person, keep all of the people I've ever met in my orbit by having one-on-one conversations with them. You can't do that. It's not scalable. It's not desirable for either party. So like, what can I do that can allow us to stay in conversation, keep that door open? That is easy for me and scalable. And one last thing I would say on that too is that there's people we want in our orbits, and there's people that we don't. You'll meet people and you'll be like, okay, I've met 150 people and I have to keep all these 150 people, kind of back to that fear mindset. And no, if you've met 150 people, not all of those 150 people are people who are going to be beneficial to be in your brand community. So I think it's also important to practice that, practice accepting that not everyone we meet is who's supposed to be with us on this brand.
Adam and I went to a conference yesterday. We went to the Snowflake conference. Other AI databases are available. And it was really interesting because as we went around the conference, we realized that every single person that was exhibiting was saying exactly the same. So the only way that people could actually get people to come on their stand would be to have something entertaining, like a basketball game or a Scalextric or something like that. And so you kind of wandered around, and it was a bit like a carousel with all these things sort of like running past. And you knew that as soon as you stepped on, there would be some salesperson with a sweaty hand that would be wanting to talk to you and scan your badge. Anyway, Adam and I went to one of the sessions, and it was about AI in retail and CPG. And the two presenters there had their screen up, nice smiley faces, and they then had QR codes. And they said to us before they started the presentation, whatever we say today, we would really like to carry the conversation on with you after this. Please scan the QR codes and connect to us on LinkedIn. Now, we need to there's a debate about whether their LinkedIn profiles would be any use, because our assumption would be if they're an expert at the conference, that there would be an expert and show that on LinkedIn. But the fact of the matter is that they made a jump, and the jump was, here we were in a highly branded environment that probably cost multiple millions of pounds or dollars. And what they did is that they made the jump and said, hey, actually, we'd like to have a relationship with you. Would you like to talk to us? And there was a number of people that put up phones and actually did that. And they probably got more from that than from the badge scanning.
Which drives.
Sorry, Bertrand.
No. Go ahead. But I was just thinking that was interesting to actually capture the audience and engage into. And
we moved from. I mean, Adam said it before, that there's a tipping point in the buying process where we move from consuming brand, because that's generally what we see, and I'm talking about business to business. And we move from brand, and we move to consuming a personal content. Because what we do, if I'm going to buy from Snowflake, I don't know anybody at Snowflake. Well, I actually found that I did, because somebody bumped into me and said, "Hey Tim, I've not seen you for ages." But normally you go, I want to buy something from SAP. I don't know anybody from SAP. What do I do? And then you find somebody, and then you latch onto that person, and then you build a relationship. And there's that tipping point. Nobody else is talking about this out in the marketplace, by the way, of where we move from brand content to personal content. And those people have picked up on that, and it was really interesting to watch, wasn't it, Adam?
It was fascinating. Yeah. And I think that also they were very aware that the kind of the corporate outreach, and the guy said people don't, sorry for anyone in advertising, people don't engage with any adverts anymore. He said TV advertising is dead. We all avoid that as much as we possibly can. Now it's all about influencers. Now it's all about people that influence, and I think that I think he was talking specifically at this point about like the Kim Kardashians of this world. You know, I'm seeing a new pair of training shoes on her and I want to buy a pair of those shoes. But I think it's equally true for what you said, Tracy, about being a micro influencer, you know, where I know you because Tim raves about you, and therefore I'm likely to trust what it is that you say. And actually, this is the opportunity for us all, isn't it? To go out there and create those fans around us who go and knock on doors on our behalf and say to people, I know just the person that you need to speak to about that. And that's where the true power is, because at the end of the day, you know, if I only knew you, Tracy, through Tim, it would be like, well, I don't know anyone that does marketing really, except I know Tracy a little bit more than anyone else because I know her through Tim. And actually, that's enough. You know, you only got to be a little bit ahead of the finish line, haven't you, to win the race?
Bertrand.
Well, Tim, thank you so much, because this is now the time, right, to say what? Guess what? We now have a newsletter.
Do we?
And so you should not miss an episode with that. Get the show highlights and the Beyond the Show insight.
Get your phone out.
And
everybody
reminder,
who's watching this, get your phone out.
Yes, exactly.
I'm
trying it.
Scan the QR code.
And scan the.
And then not only can you get the newsletter, but you can connect with the people on the show and get in the conversation.
And we don't do anything where we say buy my product because we're great or anything like that. It's all it's information. You'll learn stuff.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend, and see you next time.
Thanks, Bertrand, for